Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Spencer Penrod. I'm a world builder, someone who makes worlds for stories and games and things like that. Um, I am taking a look at MILGRAM, and we are back with, I think this is the fourth episode. Um, Last episode, we looked at the first prisoner's interrogation and music video. This time, we're back looking at Yuno, the second prisoner, and trying to get a look at what her sins were and what's going on. Last time, we kind of got the sense that, like, the sense has been, or the feeling has been growing throughout this entire series so far, that things aren't as they seem on the surface. And in the last episode, we really started to get the feeling that crimes weren't the focus whatsoever. That really we're focusing in on sin and transgression against who we are rather than any particular breaking of the law. And it feels like S is starting to embody that concept more and more. So it'll be interesting to see how that's reinforced or dealt with going forward. And interesting to see if we learn anything more about what's going on with the prisoners or the prison or anything like that. So let's go ahead and jump into it and see if we can get some details. I'm interested where she hid, because the views of the cells we've seen so far, they don't have like solid doors. They're just iron bars, and they don't have anywhere to hide. There's like not furniture or anything like that. Maybe it was around one of those weird corner pieces that they all have, but I kind of thought that was just an artifact of the music video extraction process, because we only saw that in S's dream. But I guess that's also where we've gotten the clearest view of the prisons as well. So maybe they do have actual doors and they're not just iron bars. In fact, I think I'm leaning towards that. That the representation we saw was just metaphorical, and that they're actually solid walls with solid doors, and she kind of hid behind where the door would open, which would also help make them more soundproof, leaning towards what we were questioning last episode with how we could possibly keep the conversation hidden. It'd make a lot more sense if we just haven't actually seen what they look like so far. And they're a lot more solid than we had thought. Oh, crimes. That's the first time we've seen that word. That's really weird to me. In fact, it almost makes me think it's a translation error, because it's been so intentional to avoid that word so far. So is it an error, or are they saying that it's really just been a coincidence that they have used sins over and over again and never used this word? Or are we trying to sell a different picture to Yuno here, and maybe have her believe something different than that we're after sins instead of crimes? That could be another interesting option. I guess we'll have to see whether, like, which of those words we use more throughout this conversation, because it could just be a one-off thing that would probably indicate a translation error.
そのためにいくつか話をしよ
オッケー、話そう話そう。
う。まず
自己紹介とかしとく？貸し切りの16歳、高校生。
Okay, just an error on the age, I guess.
9月2日生まれの乙女座の大型。
ストップユノ。
なに？
質問はこちらからする。
どうぞどうぞ。
囚人としてミルグラムに囚われて数日というところか。率直にどうだ、監獄生活は。
意外と楽しいよ。家族がどうしてるかなって心配はあるけど、不思議体験って感じで。
楽しいか。
そうだね。他の囚人の人たちもみんな面白いし、まだいろいろ探り合いって空気もいいね。そういう時期の人間観察ってやっぱり楽しいよね。
ユノ。
あよ？
緊張感がなさすぎる。尋問だと言っているだろう。
ああ、看守さんたらムード大切にするタイプだ。
最低限はお前の罪を許すか許さないか判断す。
Back to saying sins here. So still not enough to tell because it's only been one of each. But it's interesting that it's not sticking with crime, at least. I wonder, we are interrogating them right before we're extracting their memories. And here we're saying that we care about setting the mood, which I feel like if you had someone overly willing to share, that it would normally be a good thing for an interrogation. You wouldn't care about how they are feeling. Like, you wouldn't want them to be intimidated and scared or something like that. But we did speculate that the memories were extracted are being influenced by something, whether that's some kind of overseer or whether it is the prisoner's mood itself. This is making me think that the mood is what influences it. And the point of these interrogations isn't to get information, and it's not even to play that clever little game that S suggested to Haruka, where we're just getting answers and comparing what was said and not said and what was lied about to the music videos. But actually, all we're caring about doing is getting the prisoners in the right mindset so that we can get a more useful result from the music videos. Because if that's influenced by the prisoner's mindset, then the way we interrogate them right before it's taken has to influence how they are, how they're presented. Which, by the way, reminds me, I didn't actually pass judgment on Haruka last time. If I were to do so, I would say innocent, because we just don't have enough information. We still don't even know what he's done. There were hints that he seems to have killed, like, maybe a dog, maybe a girl and a woman. But I think it was just way too vague. And I'm so distrustful of what's going on here that I really just don't want to participate. Rather than casting judgment, I kind of want to abstain and say that the judgment process itself seems like it's meant to do something to us. And regardless of how we vote, that objective is being accomplished. And I don't trust MILGRAM to let them accomplish that goal. So it makes me not want to participate. But I will still try and pass judgment, because I know it's ultimately a game and you've got to play to have fun, to do what it's saying. But were I actually in S's position, I don't think I would be passing judgment.
するための貴重な場だからな。
緊張感がない理由は3つあります。聞きたい？
それを解決すれば真剣に取り組むんだな。
まあそうなるかな。
話してみろ。
3000円になります。
いいから話せ。
ケチ。まあいいや。じゃあ1つ目。看守さんの見た目が全然怖くなくて、むしろ可愛いから。
はあ？
おかしいでしょ、看守なのに。私と同じくらいの年じゃない？むしろちょっと下くらい？
知らん。
ほらほら無理でしょ、そんな可愛い顔で緊張感持ってなんて。
は
眉間にシワ寄せても無駄だって。
大変不服で不愉快だ。それに反論もあるぞ。
ほうほう、聞きましょう。
僕が屈強な大男だったとして暴力を持って支配しようとしたところでお前の態度が変わるとは思えないな。
ああ、確かにそうかも。
だろう。それはお前自身の気質の問題だ。よって。
It's weird. It's both weird to point out that we're the same age, because that is really young to be in this position. Especially if it's Japan. I don't think their age of majority is even 18, is it? I think it actually might be younger. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The real thing is that we seem to have a read on her character already. That we're really confident that she would be comfortable even if we were to be more menacing and to threaten violence or even use violence. Which I feel like is another point towards having more information about these prisoners than we've been given. Like, she seems really happy-go-lucky, but to assume that that would persist even were we scary and violent is a bit of a stretch. So I feel like either this is us hinting at having more information than the audience has been shown, or it's hinting at us being so uncomfortable with the idea of being cute that they're kind of reaching to try and counter this point in this strange way that's a bit of a leap in logic, but they turned out to be right.
僕の見た目は関係ない。全く関係ない。
めちゃくちゃ気にしてんじゃん。まあいいや。じゃあ第一問クリアってことで。
いつの間にクイズになった。
私が緊張感のない理由2つ目。先に尋問から帰ってきたはるかがニッコニコ。
What is this implying? This is making me think that they do have bars after all. But also, why would Haruka be returning from interrogation if it happened in their cells? And if it didn't happen in their cells, then how was Haruka able to, or sorry, how was Yuno able to surprise us or try to? Maybe we're in some kind of interrogation room, like the room where we extract memories. And she saw Haruka being brought back to the cell because the cells do have bars. And then she was brought to the interrogation room, and then we came in later. I guess that would mean Jackalope had to be the one bringing them around, if that was the case. And then we are off doing something else and coming back to this room. I think that's my working theory. It's probably an irrelevant detail. But I feel like I just keep having all this confusion about what these doors on the cells actually look like. It would be nice to see them in a way that was concrete.
それは僕のせいじゃない。
おかげでよっぽど楽しいことが待ってるんだと思って期待してたんだけどな。
お前が帰るときは絶対に暗い顔で。
Okay, so return to your cell. They are definitely being taken out, which is why we heard the heavy door, why she was able to hide somewhere to surprise us. Because the cells don't have the place to hide, it's just this room. And that means that Jackalope has to be ferrying them, or we're doing something strange by bringing them here and then leaving and then coming back. Which could be the case. I just don't see why we would do that.
ねえねえ、はるかと何話してたの？あの子をあんなにニコニコさせるなんてすごい手腕じゃない？
僕は尋問での会話の内容を漏らすことはしない。だが、そうだな。僕が何をしたか教えてやろう。思いっきりビンタをお見舞いしてやった。
わお。それでニコニコで帰ってきたのか。そりゃはるかが変態さんだ。第2問もクリアかな？
なんだか気づかないうちにお前のペースに巻き込まれている気がする。
3つ目、監視さんに人を許す許さないなんて決めれっこないと思っているから。
She's onto me.
聞き捨てならないな。僕の能力を疑問視しているということか。
違う。監視さんがどうこうってわけじゃないよ。
詳しく聞かせてもらおうか。
まあシステムを聞いた時からずっと思ってたんだよ。ここ監視さんが有罪無罪決めるんでしょ。
そうだな。
監視さんの好き嫌いでしかないでしょそれ。あんまり詳しくないけどさ、日本って法治国家ってやつでしょ。法律以外でいいとか悪いとか決めたらおかしくなっちゃうでしょ。例えばニュースとかさ、不倫とか不適切発言とか不謹慎とかで騒いでるでしょ。
Okay, so that's weird. I don't know Japan's laws, so maybe those things are actually illegal. The bigger point I feel like is that those are the examples she comes to: adultery, inappropriate competence, immodesty, as opposed to, say, murder, what she's supposedly in here for, or any other type of crime. I feel like she has either got some experience in this area or just has a mindset that leans towards this particular brand of crime. So maybe that's hinting towards what her sin is. I guess we'll see if we learn more details, but it's notable that there's no violent crimes. There's no like robbery or stealing or anything like that. It's all just like interpersonal and kind of sexual or sexual adjacent things that she comments on.
同調した人たちも叩き始めるでしょ。バカだなって思わない？法律以外で人が人を罰するなんてキリがないよ。
一般論になるが、法律も人が決めたものだ。すべての人間が納得する妥当性を得られるものではないだろう。
それ、自分が納得したいからって無関係の他人に干渉してくる人が嫌いなんだよね。それってただ自分が気持ちよくなりたいだけじゃん。その人たちは結局何もしてくれないよ。
ユノ、
私がどんなに寒い思いしてても何も温めてくれない人たちだよ。へへ、話それちゃった。何が言いたいかというとね、
結局僕次第だと。
さ、結局もう好みじゃん。まあ別にいいと思うんだけど、潔くて。でも監視さんがどう思うかなんて私にはどうしようもない。だから取り繕う意味がない。普段通り楽しく過ごしているってわけ。
なかなかクセ者だな、お前も。
そう？普通じゃない？
いいだろう。お前がお前らしくいるように、僕も監視らしくやらせてもらう。ユノ、お前自身は自分の罪についてどうか。
Okay, so we're definitely majority sins here. I'm thinking crimes was not meant to do anything and is probably just a translation quirk. Unless we start seeing crimes brought up a lot more, I'm still of the opinion that sins is a very intentional choice meant to override crime in our thought, that crimes aren't what we're concerned with here.
考えているんだ。お前のその感性をもってすれば、なぜ自分がここに入れられたかは分かっているんだろう。
That's weird too. So we've seen she's a pretty intuitive and intelligent person, but if you kill someone, you don't need to be intuitive or intelligent to know why you're in prison. Like, it's obvious the murder is why. So the fact that he's pointing out intuition as what she needs in order to determine why she's here is another point in favor of the sins being transgressions against us rather than transgressions against a judicial system. It makes me wonder if we're a known entity, or if MILGRAM is a known entity, or if he's expecting her to read us in the moment. In any case, though, it's just a very curious choice of what he says she has and what he says she needs in order to determine why she's here. That's a really weird phrasing. Well, that thing I was doing, which seemingly could be called murder, would be my first guess. Wasn't it an abortion? With her being so sexually focused based on the crimes that she listed, and with it, like, she doesn't seem to shy away from the truth. But this is a really strange phrasing of it. It makes it seem like what she was doing isn't what most people would think of as murder, or at least not the first thing they would think in their mind when they hear murder. So abortion sounds like something that would fit. I don't know how that's viewed in Japan, but I know a lot of people here view that as murder, and a lot of people don't, so it's pretty contentious. So that's where my mind goes to first of all. Otherwise, I'm not really sure why there would be ambiguity here. So yeah, that's my first guess. And then he says that's right. But we don't know their sins. Like, it's said that we need to figure out what their sins are. So if all of their sins are just murder, that doesn't make sense, because we wouldn't need to figure anything out. We already know what it is. We're not just trying to determine the situation and what exactly happened. The crime itself is under suspicion. Like, we don't know what they've done. So it's weird that we sound assured about that. I think we're just bluffing.
では、お前はお前の罪をどう感じる？許されるべきものか、許されざるものか。
さあ、わかんない。考えるのめんどくさいかな。
考えろ。
ぶっちゃけ、カンシさんが許さないなら許さないでいいよ。
許されたいとは思わないのか。
必死で謝ってまでは別にいいかな。自分のしたいことをした結果だから。
罪の意識はないのか。
What was that? Even if I have to apologize, like my life was on the line, then I wouldn't do it. It's the result of doing what I wanted to do after all. I don't think I understand what she's saying here.
自分のしたいことをした結果だから。
罪の意識はないのか。
どうかな。それも考えるのやめちゃった。
適当だな。
世の中が真面目すぎるだけだよ。
ユノ、お前はふざけているように見えて頭のいい人間だ。
それはどうも買いかぶりだけどね。
だがそれゆえか定感している。自分にも人間にも社会にも全てを悟って冷めた顔をしているな。
へえ。何？お説教
Belief that any hardship can be overcome through sheer motivation. Okay. I don't understand why we would say she's a good person. If I'm right that we're trying to set a tone to make the extraction better, then that makes me think the tone we're setting isn't one of fear or putting them off balance or anything like that, but rather it's more like we want to make them feel seen. And the more seen they feel, the more true the memories might be. Although the memories would never be untrue. Maybe it just makes them more clear.
精神論系のやつ？一番嫌いだよ。
ヘラヘラと空虚な言葉を吐いているお前より今のイラついたお前の方がずっと好ましい。
え？
冷めたままでいい。ごまかさなくていい。僕の前ではな。
部屋が変わっていく。
尋問はこれにて終了。ここからは。
So we definitely thought that something mechanical was going on in this room to extract the memories. It sounds like it's not even just always able to do that, but it needs to shift into the right configuration to take memories out. I don't know what the point of that would be instead of just leaving it in the right setup. Especially since people are being brought here. I thought it was some kind of machine being rolled out or moving into position, but it sounds like the room itself changes. I wonder if we're taking them to that huge room at the end, because that's the room it looked like we were in S's music video with the scene of everyone like killing us. So I guess it would make sense if that is like the memory extraction room and it shifts around to take memories. It's a little far from them though, so it'd be kind of strange. But all of the other rooms were accounted for, so I don't know what it could be. Well, I guess there was one that wasn't accounted for, so maybe it was that. But the layout looked the same as the cafeteria.
お前の記憶から生み出される心象を覗かせてもらう。
歌で引き出すって言ってたやつ。
そうだ。お前の冷めた心も適当な言葉もなぜそう至ったかも。
Are we saying that we're dedicated to presuming her innocent? Why are we going to accept all of these things? Accept as in receive them rather than approve of them, maybe? Once again, though, this makes me think that we're aiming more for comfort than we are for discomfort, which is what I would normally assume the purpose of an interrogation to be. Like, you'd want to put them off kilter so they're easier to give you the right answers. So I wonder if being in this mindset of being seen is enough to help make the process go more smoothly.
すべて僕が突き止め、受け止めてやる。
監視さん。
隠し事は不可能。故に何も取り繕う必要はない。お前はお前のままでいればいい。ありのままのお前を僕が身勝手に判断してやる。それがミルグラムだからな。
何そのめちゃくちゃな理論。でもそうだな。想像してみるとそれはちょっとだけあったかいな。
囚人番号2番ユノ。さあお前の罪を訴え。
All right, well, I guess we'll see if there's information here in this music video. Based on the last one we saw for Haruka, I'm guessing I'm not actually going to have very much to say here. It will probably be mostly symbolic and mostly about the characters' perception of themselves and their own past rather than the world. But we'll take a look and see. So this is the most we've seen of like what looks to be the real world. Obviously, we can't trust it fully because these music videos are so filtered and transformed by the time we see them. But the presentation doesn't look like in Haruka's trial or music video where things were really symbolic and abstract. And it also doesn't look like things were in S's trial where they were more S's music video, not trial, where the pictures of the real world were like censored almost. She seems to really live in the real world, and it looks just like normal Japan, normal modern day Japan even. So I think that it's likely representative of what the world actually is. We've been a bit on the fence about where we are. The more we've seen, the more it looks like everyday Earth. But I feel like this is pretty much the final nail in the coffin, sealing in that we are somehow on Earth and everything is normal except this prison that has the ability to extract memories and is run by a jackalope. Maybe not run, but it's definitely like the jackalope is an important figure to it. So there's something going on beyond normal reality, but for the most part, it's indistinguishable from it. Yeah, so once again, not a ton for us to work off of there. I feel like the vibe I'm getting is that I was right. Her sin seems to have to do with sex or maybe pregnancy and maybe getting an abortion from there. The vibe I was getting was that like she seemed to be talking a lot about love and specifically doing things together with the person that she loved. She kept saying things like bringing warmth to each other, which kind of sounds like a euphemism for sex. And while none of this was really like sexual in nature, it was a little bit, I don't know. It was kind of the vibe that I got was that she's talking a lot about wanting to connect and be with one person, but she messed up. I'm thinking when she says she found out, she's saying she found out she was pregnant. And that was, I wonder what these words are saying. I wonder if it's just the lyrics. But yes, like this shot in particular, I'm not normally a symbolism guy, so this is out of my depth, but I really feel like these are reminiscent of DNA. Seeing them come together and then overlap, and then we see a third one here later. It really kind of made it feel like, even if it's not meant to be DNA, like maybe it was representing two people coming together and creating a third. And if that's the case, then when this third one presumably here breaks, that would represent the abortion or maybe even a miscarriage, and she's like blaming herself for that. I know a lot of women end up accused of things when they have a miscarriage, or even accusing themselves and feeling really bad about that. So yeah, it's possible that that's what it was dealing with. That's the vibes I'm getting. I can't read too much into it. It's nice to basically get confirmation we're on Earth, that this is modern times in the real world. I wish we had a little more to work with, but it kind of seems like we're going to get really small bits and pieces throughout the interviews and then these music videos seem like they are probably just outside my wheelhouse. They're really enjoyable. The songs are great, but I'm not the best at analyzing these specifically. To pass judgment, I would say innocent, based on the vibes I'm getting. If this really is just like she was a little bit unfaithful or promiscuous or something like that, that is definitely not deserving of a death sentence. And if really the only thing she did was have an abortion, that's definitely not deserving of a death sentence. Or especially if it was a miscarriage. So I don't know if that's the case, but really the vibes I'm getting from how she talked and what this song was like don't really point to anything insidious to me. And again, I'm a little hesitant to actually participate because I feel like this is a trap. Like, the process of passing judgment and analyzing these people's sins is meant to do something to us. And that participating in that is going to sink us further down the hole that MILGRAM is digging. And I don't really want to be a part of that. I want to understand this organization before I'm willing to participate in their like extrajudicial execution of children. Call me crazy for wanting the law to handle criminals or not killing children, but it definitely feels like we aren't the good guys here, and so I don't really want to give them more fuel. But yeah, I'm interested to see what more we learn in the future. I've been liking these videos a lot, and I'm excited to come back next time and look at more. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking around, and I hope you've enjoyed the video. Leave a like, leave a subscription if you want to see more in the future, and I will see you next time.